Hola a todos, bienvenidos. El día de hoy tenemos una entrevista increíble. Gracias a todos por conectarse. Espero que todos estén muy bien. Les quiero pedir a los que no se hayan suscrito, por favor, suscríbanse a este canal. Y les quiero recordar que le voy a leer a nuestro invitado los primeros 5 comentarios que sean pagados a través del super chat como donativo a este canal. Así que bueno, vamos a cambiar a inglés para presentar a nuestro invitado. Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to Cafecito con Masha. Welcome everybody. Today we have a very special guest. And first I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel and remind you that I will read to our guest the first 5 comments made through the super chat. So to keep going with the interview, I want to present our special guest for today, Jeremy Abbott. How are you, Jeremy? Oh, hold on. You don't have audio.
Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you so much for having me. Everything's going very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited. For those who don't know you, I want to make a small presentation of you. Jeremy was a national champion for the United States 4 times. He competed in 2 Olympic Games in Vancouver and in Sochi, sorry. And he was a bronze, well, he is a bronze medalist in those Olympics in Sochi. So welcome. I'm thrilled to have you here. So how's everything going with the pandemic and all?
You know, everything's going as well as can possibly be, considering the state of the world right now. I'm lucky enough to finally have a home and to be working a bit. So I think, you know, I count my blessings every day, considering how it could be otherwise.
Well, it was crazy. You told me you were in a big move. So you were like in between homes or something like that?
Yeah, so actually last September, right before I went on tour with Rock the Rink across Canada, I moved everything out of my apartment in Michigan and put it all in storage. So, because I had already been traveling for more than 6 months and hadn't been home, and then I was going to be traveling another 6 to 9 months without being home. So I figured, you know, put it in storage, deal with it later. Like, just don't pay for an apartment that you don't live in. So basically I did that, and then come March, you know, I was expecting like choreography season to be traveling and everything else, and then everything shut down, and
Oh my
I
God.
was I was basically living with Yuka Sato for 4 months before I left Michigan, and now I have, after a very roundabout and long journey, I found myself in San Francisco.
Oh my God. That was a crazy journey. Wow.
It de- yeah, it was a crazy journey, but one that I'm glad I got to take and lucky enough that I could take. And now I feel very settled and well, settled. I'm still unpacking. If you can see, it's a bit of a mess, uh, but I'm really happy with where I am and the work that I've been doing. So
Well, I wish you the best of luck unpacking.
thank you. I need the luck with the packing for sure.
Oh yeah. That's the worst thing about moving. So, okay, I want to start from the beginning. You started skating at a very young age. So, what's your story? What inspired you to start figure skating?
So I grew up in Aspen, Colorado, which is a large ski town. It's a huge ski resort. Um, and basically, from the time that I could walk, my parents taught me to skate. They taught me to ski, lots of winter sports. And I just like, I took to skating. There was something about it from a young age that I just fell in love with. And then when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I saw Robin Cousins perform live at a local show that we had, and I was so just enthralled with the way that he performed and moved to music and got the audience involved in what he was doing. And I was just like, I was already skating at that point, but I turned to my mom and I was like, I I have to I have to take lessons. I have to learn. I want to do what that man's doing. I want to be that person. And that's kind of like that was the beginning of the journey, really.
Wow, that is great. So you started at like about at 2 years old or something like that?
Yeah, 2 years old, and my first competition, I was maybe five, just about to turn five, I think.
Actually, I met your mom online yesterday.
Of course.
Sweetheart, I love her already. And she sent me a cute video of you competing. So I must show it because I believe it was your first axel in competition.
It was the first time I landed an axle in competition.
Oh, this is so cute. You were so little. In 93, how old were you?
I would have been 7.
Oh. So did you have a skater you admired or looked up to?
Ah, I I mean, I grew up at a time that skating was on TV almost every day or every weekend at least. So I didn't have one particular skater that I grew up inspired by, but I mean, obviously Robin Cousins, because he like having seen him perform was like the impetus to really get me to want to take lessons and or private lessons anyway, rather than group lessons. So I mean, he was very pivotal in my career. But growing up, I got to watch Christy Yamaguchi and Scott Hamilton and Paul Wiley and Kurt Browning and Gary Beacom and just so many Brian Boitano, so many amazing champions that I've actually since gotten to like meet and work with. But those were like it was all of them. Everyone from Stars on Ice, Champions on Ice, and all of the TV specials that we got to watch, like all of that was really inspired me to skate and to want to perform and be as good as I can. Like growing up, the reason I wanted to go to the Olympics was to be able to do those shows and to be able to do like Stars on Ice and to be able to do all of the TV shows that all of these people that I admired so much got to do. So that was what drove me to work hard.
That is so cute. So, well, your dreams came true, and you won your first nationals in 2009,
Mhm.
right? So after that, you in total you won 4 national titles. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal. I can imagine that made you feel really proud. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's really funny. I, I, growing up, I didn't have the the drive to want to be like national champion. Like I wanted to go to worlds and I wanted to go to Olympics and stuff. And I wanted to medal at those competitions, but like nationals to me never really mattered much until I started to compete on the senior level at nationals. And kind of at that point, there was just something so special about that specific competition in the US that I just fell in love with. And it became one of my favorite competitions that I look forward to every single year. But it was such a double edged sword because the US championships, in order to qualify for worlds, like that's where we put the most emphasis. So the U.S. Championships always ended up being my best competition of the season, but it almost had to be because if it wasn't my best, I wouldn't get to. I wouldn't have gotten to move forward to Worlds and Olympics.
So, of all the nationals you won, is there one that felt more special than the other?
Ooh, um, I mean, they were all really special for different reasons. The the first one, obviously, it's your first time, and it was special. But I didn't skate my best, so it didn't feel good winning because I wasn't proud of the performance that I gave. But it's still special because it's the first time. Then the second was I qualified for the first Olympics after I had taken a huge risk by moving coaches just 8 months earlier. Um, and I skated probably the two best programs of my life. So that one was really special in a lot of ways. The third was kind of the moment that season was really the moment that I really took control of my skating and my storytelling, and decided what type of skater I wanted to be, and really just took full control over um, the stories that I wanted to tell, the dances I wanted to dance, and the movements I wanted to create on the ice, and the way that I wanted to do that. So that one was huge because it was really just like the first time in my career that I took full ownership of everything I was doing. And then the last one, I had almost written myself off. I was qualifying for my second Olympics, and I had been struggling the season prior, even that season a little bit, and um, I knew the stakes were going to be really high, and to be able to pull off the two performances that I did at that nationals, just given where my confidence level was really, honestly, that was one of the most special to me, because it just kind of reaffirmed that everything I had done up to that point was worth it, and all the work and all the sacrifice I had given to continue was just really worth the effort.
Did you take part in making your choreographies?
Yeah, so the very first program that I choreographed for myself for competition was my Muse Long program, the Exogenesis Symphony #3.
Yeah.
I did it the first time in the 2012 season, and that was the first program that I had choreographed for competition for myself. And then I used that program again in 2014. So I actually won 2 of my national titles with the same long program.
Yeah. Wow, that is awesome. I just love these stories. They inspire me so much. So, okay, talking about your first Olympics in Vancouver, how was your first Olympic experience? How did it feel?
Amazing, terrifying. Um, it was really like every possible emotion at once. It's a lot to deal with, and leading up to the Olympics, when you're kind of a hopeful, you have a lot of meetings, and you get to talk to a lot of athletes, and they kind of describe the experience, or their experience, and what you can expect. But it's really
Yeah.
hard to understand until you're there. Um, so I thought I had prepared myself, and I got there, and it was like, um, I it was like I didn't know what I was doing. It was like I was competing for the first time ever. Um, so in terms of competition, it was really hard, but in terms of just being an athlete, and representing the United States, and getting to fulfill a lifelong dream, was just something so special. I think my favorite moment from Vancouver was actually during the opening ceremonies. Um, and if anybody who watched will probably remember, but there's a moment where they had a boy, or a man, I guess, running through a field of wheat. And he was like attached to a harness, and he's like running in place, and he's running faster and faster and faster. And then he starts flying. And it was all to Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now. And it was kind of like, that moment just felt so symbolic, and it just kind of encapsulated everything that I was feeling and thinking, and envisioning from the time I was a child. And that moment like stuck with me so deeply, and I like, it's one of my favorite memories from just compete from my whole career, I think.
I think Olympics is different for everybody. I have talked to some other skaters about this, and I want to know how you felt in the moment you stepped in the Olympic ice, because some skaters talk about watching the Olympic rings everywhere and feeling this like power or something like that. How does it feel? I mean, to be in that, that place.
um i I was so in my head the first games that I don't really remember. Like, I remember seeing it during opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies, but everything in between for me was kind of just like um a fever dream, honestly. Like, uh I I mean, as I said, like when I qualified for that Olympics, I had skated the best I had ever skated in my life. And my goal was just to qualify. I didn't really have a goal past qualifying. And suddenly I had people telling me, well, if you skate just like that, you'll win. And so now I go home, I have 3 weeks, and I'm trying to recreate that program every single day. And I just destroyed my own confidence based off of other people's expectations, and taking other people's wants and expectations of myself, rather than kind of forming my own goals and my own expectations, and really just sticking to um, my own game plan. So that I kind of just destroyed myself mentally, like in the 3 weeks prior to leaving. So as soon as I got there, like all I was doing was just trying to survive. So I really don't remember like that feeling of being like, oh, I'm at the Olympics when I first stepped on the ice.
You were
Um, but
stressed.
to Yeah, but to contrast that, in Sochi, I felt very differently. Like I showed up to the first practice, and it was in the main in the iceberg, and they were lifting the jumbotron, and it
Mhm.
was all wrapped in blue and had the rings on it. And I remember like I was stepping on that ice with a very different like sense of purpose and sense of pride, and I knew what my game plan was. And even though it wasn't executed the way I wanted to, I still followed my plan, and it made me feel so much more confident going into that games, that I could enjoy the experience of being an athlete way more than I did the first time.
So talking about Sochi, you won the bronze medal with your team. So how does that feel?
um, I think, given some time, there I have such a pride and such an honor in that accomplishment. At the time, I was the first. No, no, I think men were first. Actually, we were the first. I was the first athlete on the team to compete, and it was not good. Uh, and so I felt like pride in having that medal, but I felt a lot of guilt in not feeling like I had earned it personally. I felt like I was just lucky that my team had done so well, and I just was like along for the ride and got to kind of like um, bear the fruit of their or bear the gifts of their fruit, I guess. Or I'm saying that completely wrong, but I think people understand.
I get it, I get it.
And kind of given some time, and stepping away from competition, and really connecting with my with who I am and my experience, and really taking in gratitude, which at the time I feel like what was mostly missing from my career, was a lot of gratitude. Like it I became kind of jaded, and it all became like very second nature and very like blasé. I was just, okay, this is what I do. I go to the Olympics. I get to like travel internationally and make money doing this. And it was like very just kind of second nature, but there's nothing natural about it. And I really felt like I was missing a lot of gratitude. And since I've had some time to step back and really look back on my career and look back on my life, and get to and look at even at what I'm doing now, I have so much more appreciation and so much more gratitude for it. And so now that I've kind of gotten some space from competition, and from that mindset of um, you know being me, being the problem, or me being broken, or me, like me, everything about me. Like now that I've gotten to kind of like step back from that, I have so much more gratitude for that accomplishment, and a lot more pride, for having been a part of that team, and just a lot of love for the people that I got to experience that with.
Yes, of course. I mean, in the end, mistakes or not, you were part of that and you won that medal. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it definitely, it took a long time for me to get there, because I think, it's one of the downsides of being an athlete, is that like we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we expect ourselves to be perfect. And when we're not, we think, that um, it's the end of the world. But it's like that's just one moment in time, and it passes, and life gets easier. And you know, and then I can kind of accept those gifts as they come.
Of course. So talking about Sochi, here's a dumb question. I remember you had a horrible fall, but
Mm.
then you stood up. I mean, everybody thought you weren't going to stand up and continue, but you did. And you completed the jumps as if nothing happened, but you were in pain, clearly. So, did you get injured or what happened?
Um, so I actually, oh, I think we're watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I still don't know what actually happened on the jump itself. I think just I rushed my upper body and it went past my feet. So my axis clearly uh, kind of tipped like an overflowing glass of water. Um, but I don't know. That moment, I remember laying on the ice and there was a lot going through my mind. You know, I thought that was the end of my Olympics. I thought that was the end of my career. I thought that was just like, I thought that was the end. And I didn't know if they were going to stop the music. I didn't know if I was injured. I didn't know what was going on. Um, I didn't know if I should go over to the referee and ask to like rewind the music. I didn't know if I should take the deduction. I didn't know if I should withdraw. Like I really didn't know what. All I knew was that I had to stand up to figure it out. And as soon as I stood up, I started to hear this like this it almost sounded like a, you know, a train kind of coming, like where at first it's a little quiet and then it gets louder and louder and louder. And it was like I started to notice that the audience was like screaming and applauding. And up to that point, the audience had been nearly like silent between the team competition and even when I started this competition, the individual event. Like the audience was not really with me. Like they were very quiet and very reserved. And when I stood up and I heard that cheering, it was just like I made the decision right then and there. Like this is not the end. Like I worked my entire life for this moment, and I'm not going to end. Like I'm not going to end my career like in the fetal position against the wall. Like I'm going to finish this Olympics, even if I come dead last.
Yeah.
If I come dead last, like I have to stand up and I have to go after every jump. And if I fall in the next two jumps, I fall in the next two jumps. But like I have to finish for myself because I made this commitment to myself, and it's not worth throwing away, regardless of how I feel. So it was like I was in pain, but I just made a decision, and there was no turning back from it. And I think the biggest thing was that I allowed the I hadn't done prior was that I allowed myself the opportunity for mistakes because I was so wrapped up in having to be perfect that I like almost couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
Like I was actually like prior to the competition, I was hyperventilating, like I was having trouble breathing. Like I was just like so wrapped up in the fact that like, oh, this is the Olympics, I have to be perfect. And when I allowed myself like, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're perfect, you have to finish because you showed up here to prove a point.
Mhm.
Then it became like all that weight kind of came off my shoulders, and I could finally breathe again. And then it was just like my training took over and I knew exactly what to do and I didn't have to think anymore. So even though I was in pain, like it was just like, okay, like you do this every day, you land these jumps every day, you do this program every day, you know what it's like to do it when you're ahead of the music, you know what it's like to do it when you're behind the music. And I was just able to figure it out as I went because I finally just stopped like trying to grasp at perfection, and I just told myself like be you and compete as yourself and finish this program no matter what.
It was crazy. I remember I was commentating those Olympics with Fox Sports. And as I was commentating, I saw the fall, and everybody in Fox Sports were quiet, just waiting what was going to happen. And then when you stood up, and it's like you rushed to complete the jumps because you were behind the music now. It was so incredible. Everybody was so moved because it was inspiring. Not everybody can stand up and finish a program after that kind of fall.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly surprised myself because I
Yeah.
really did. There were a good few seconds that I thought that was I thought that was the end of my career, like completely. And so I was so proud that I gave myself the opportunity to continue, because it could have been the end. And I think I would have regretted that so much
Of course.
if I had just let that be the end. And, you know, we see so many amazing Olympic stories of people, like of runners, when they are hurt or injured or cramped and they're limping across the finish line. Or we've seen where like their parents have jumped the fence to help them across the finish line, or competitors have helped them across. And I think that's like there's something about the Olympic spirit and about competition and just about finishing. And um sorry, like I'm saying this about myself as if I'm like so fancy. That really like it just it just kind of all hit me at once, and it was like you have to finish, and that was it. And um just like because of the audience, because like they were cheering, because it was the Olympics, because I had worked so hard, and like all of this like happened in a matter of seconds in my head, and it was just like it just clicked, and it was like it doesn't matter if you come dead last, but you finish this competition because you owe it to yourself and to your family and to everyone who has ever supported you, who has ever worked with you, who has ever fought for you, cried for you, sweat and bled with you. Like it's not just about yourself and your placement and your like your fame or whatever. It's about everyone else and everything else. And it's no longer just about like uh um a finish, like a placement.
Mhm.
And it became about like more about the purpose of the Olympics and what they're intended to be, rather than just for it's not just for like the winners. The competition is for much more. It has so many more stories to tell than just about who wins.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, all the support you have from, like you said, from your family, friends, fans, everyone, coaches. So I think that's the magic of the sport of the Olympics. So it was really inspiring for everybody.
Thank you.
So, okay, what would you say it was your worst moment in your career in figure skating or in your whole career?
um I think I have two actually. um and they kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier, just like that selfishness and that lack of gratitude. Like when I look back, there were two moments that I was probably like most ashamed of, and it wasn't because of like my performance. It was more because of my attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the first was actually in Vancouver. I I met a snowboarder from my hometown. Her name's Gretchen Bleiler, and she won a silver medal in Italy in 2006. And then she was competing again in 2010, and I met her there because we were from the same hometown. And I saw her at the closing ceremonies, and she was like congratulating me and asked how my experience was. And I said, I said it was horrible, and I competed so bad, and I was so embarrassed. Um, and she was like, I mean, she was very smart, and like, she said, it's not about the placement. It's about the journey, and it's about the whole experience of the Olympics and the competition, and it's not just this one thing. And I was like, well, that's easy for you to say. You already have your medal. And I was something along those lines. I don't think that's exactly what I said, but I know that like my response was really bratty, and I was really at the time I was only thinking about myself and my placement, and then I skated so horribly, and I was or I thought that I skated so horribly, and I was really upset. And I have since I saw her 2 years ago. We did a speaking engagement together, and this actually came up, and I did apologize to her, and like of course she was like, I don't remember at all, but I was personally just like so mortified that that had been my attitude and that had been my thought process, and that I had zero gratitude for any of what I just experienced over the course of my first Olympics over 3 weeks. I was just the only thing I could think about was the fact that I skated poorly and didn't win my medal. So that was like I'm mortified by that to this day. And then the other one was the US championships in 2011, I came fourth. And Ryan Bradley won his US title. And I wasn't on I think I was on the Four Continents team, but I wasn't on the world team. And, having won 2 national titles, and then losing it, but like not just like coming second, but like coming fourth and like really like losing my title. I remember sitting there being so upset. And again, it was kind of like that same attitude where I just didn't have any respect or gratitude for anything kind of outside of my own world at that moment. And Ryan was going out to get his medal because like first place goes out, and I was like, I don't remember what I said, but again, it was something really bratty, and I was just basically I told him like whatever he does, like don't do a backflip. And I'm just like, I realized that like probably like a month or two later how like that one came a little quicker than the Vancouver one. But I mean that was his title, his moment. He won it, he earned it, and he should have been able to enjoy it and celebrate it as he saw fit and as he wanted to, and as was like personal to him. And here I am like trying to take that away from him. And I just like, those are 2 moments that I think I'm very ashamed of, because it was just there was no gratitude for any of it, and it was all just very selfish and very just as like I said, bratty and rude and very immature. And I look back on those 2 moments just like with a bit of disgust in myself, because I definitely have learned many valuable lessons since then that have changed my thought process and view on all of that.
Well, that's the good thing. Everybody grows up. We're dumb when we're younger, but now you're not. So you can breathe and
Yeah.
relax. Okay, and that was your worst moment. What was the best moment for you?
The best moment. Well, I think one was winning the Grand Prix final
Mm.
in 2008, because that was kind of the moment that I realized that I was like good enough, I guess. I had qualified, and I was just excited to qualify, and all I wanted to do was go and skate my best and show the world that I deserved to be there. I think a lot of people probably expected me to come last, like that I was lucky that I got to go there, and I just like in my mind I didn't really care about the placement, even if I came like 5th or 6th. I just wanted to show that I had earned my spot rightfully, and that I was good enough to be there. And then I skated 2 really great program, like very solid, great programs, and I ended up winning. And it was just like that was like the cherry on top, like because it wasn't for me, it wasn't about at that moment, it wasn't about the placement. It was just about I wanted to just prove myself and show that I was good enough to belong with these men that I had looked up to for a few years. And so that was really cool.
Like the
And then the
surprise
other, I
you
think,
didn't expect.
yeah, the other was Sochi. After that fall, standing up and finishing my program and figuring out how to finish it on time, was something that if I had done in training, I don't think I would have ever been able to have, like, I would never have been able to repeat that. Like it was a very special moment, and a very unique one. And then actually to come back the next day and skate a clean lung program. I mean, obviously I didn't do the quad because it hurt too much. And I actually couldn't do a triple loop either. So yes, it was a watered down program, but like the dream of the Olympics was to go and skate your best. And for that moment, given that circumstance, I skated the absolute best that I could. And I was just so proud of those moments, like all combined.
Dumb question. Where did you get hurt? I had always had this doubt, in your ribs or in your hip?
My hip. So I still have, I had a huge bruise for a long time. And I had done something like to the kind of, I had done something to like the muscles in my hip and my like IT band and stuff. They just were seized up. Like no matter how much like physical therapy and massage I was getting, they were just seized. So I couldn't do triple loop for a couple months because I just couldn't push through my right leg all the way.
Oh my God.
Um, but so yeah, I went to Worlds after that, and I had to take out the, I could do the quad, but I had to take out the triple loop because I still couldn't push all the way through my leg. And I have just a small, like, it's not a scar, but I still have like a small mark on my hip from where I fell.
I didn't think it
Yeah.
was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. Like I could have
Yeah.
broken my hip or chipped something or torn something. And so I think I was fortunate that it was just, soft tissue damage. But it's just funny that I have now like a little discoloration on my skin from where I fell.
It's so bad. Okay. Okay. So, changing subject, I heard you choreographed Gracie Gold's programs for last season, the ones she used on the nationals. So, it was really beautiful after all that happened with her. Uh, how was for you to work with her after what happened to her and all, and then see her at nationals?
Um, it was really, it was really emotional. I Well, she had gone to treatment, and I had texted her a few times, but there was a period of time that she wasn't allowed to have like a phone or any sort of outside communication. And as soon as she got it back, she texted me, just letting me know how she was doing. And I let her know that if she ever wanted to like come back to skating or do shows, like I would love to choreograph a show program for her just as a gift, like just from from me to her, um just to show like to help her tell her story, and to be able to like relate that to an audience. And she was like, that'd be amazing. If I decide, I'll let you know. Thank you so much. And then I got a call from her a little while later saying, I'm gonna try to compete again. I want to make a comeback. Will you do my short and my long? And I was like blown away because I mean, she's Gracie Gold and she's worked with like the best of coaches and choreographers and everything. And so to be asked to do her programs was a huge honor, and I took it very seriously. And I went to Aston, Pennsylvania, where she was training, and we sat down. Um, I had the short program. I had given her the short program before I got there, and she loved it. But for the long, like it was just all about telling her story and about moving forward and moving on from what had happened, and to show a new side of her skating, to show a new side of her as a person, and really just to reintroduce herself to the world of figure skating, in her terms, in her words, um, and her vision, and not somebody else's. Like, there was no outside influence on that one. And I remember we sat in that coach's room for 2 or 3 days listening to music endlessly. And then finally I was like, oh, I have an idea. Just like bear with me for a second. And I played her the video of Jessie Mueller singing She Used to Be Mine from the Tonys. And I was like, I think the words really encapsulate your story. So I played her the video and she was like, I really like it. But both of us, like, we weren't sure about it because like we both, I mean, Jessie Mueller's an amazing singer. But her voice just had this little bit of twang that I felt like didn't fit um, like Gracie's style or the story that we were trying to tell. And we found the Sarah Bareilles version and we sat down and listened to it, and both of us just were sobbing, like
Oh,
just crying, and we were like, this is it. And so we set out to just tell her story and be as honest about it as we could. And Um, I was really proud. It was basically 2 years in the making because um, the first season, she went to Cup of Russia, did the short, withdrew, and then withdrew from the entire season. And so then like her comeback was really 2 years in the making, and um, to see her on TV again, just knowing how she was feeling, knowing the trepidation and the fear, but still just being so willing to share who she is with that audience. It was really emotional. It was really beautiful to watch, and I was so proud of the work she put in. I was so proud that she was doing it again, and that she was doing it healthy, and she wasn't cutting corners, and she wasn't harming herself. And it was like there was so much positive, and of course, like, there was more that could be done. She could have performed the program
Mm.
more. She could have, maybe done a few more jumps, but at that point it wasn't about that. It was just about her bravery and her honesty, and the work that she had put in. And I just was like, I couldn't have been more happy and more proud of her in that moment, for just standing in the center of that ice and letting it all come as it did. Because there is something very beautiful and freeing about being the only one on the ice, and getting to share your journey and your story with people. But there's also that, like, the other side of that coin is that we all know there's are other people on the other side just waiting to tear you down and to say negative things regardless of how you do. And really to come from a treatment facility, um, for an eating disorder and for mental illness, and to be able to put yourself in the position of being criticized, and being the target of other people's insecurities, or what have you. I think that took more bravery than she gives herself credit for, and I just, like, for me, that moment was larger than life, and it was something really beautiful and poetic, and I was so, so, so proud of her.
Yeah, she's so strong. She's inspiring also. I was actually talking to her. She was one of my first guests in my channel, and we were talking about that. And wow, she's so brave. I don't know how
Yeah,
she. I admired her so much. So, what's next for you now? You're choreographing, doing shows. What's next?
so yes, I do choreography, and I did both of Gracie's programs again this year. um, and so excited to see, the growth, in those.
So the one she's
Teaching,
doing in Las Vegas, you choreographed it?
yeah, yeah. So the ones that she'll be doing in Las Vegas, I choreographed, and I'm doing a little bit of teaching, and just waiting for shows to come back, because I miss performing, and I miss being in front of an audience, because that's where I'm the happiest. Like, I love working with people, especially like Gracie, where I get to help them tell their story, and find their love of the sport again, because it can be easy to become disenchanted and jaded a bit. So I love, like, helping people kind of find that joy again. um, but I my favorite is just being in front of an audience, and getting to tell my story and my journey, and sharing that with people, and doing that honestly. Like, that's my favorite part. So I'm just waiting until I can do that again.
Are you back on the ice yet or not?
Yeah, I am. I've been skating a little bit here and there. I actually broke my blade last week though, so I can't skate this week. um, but it's okay. MK Wilson, one of your sponsors, they're shipping me a pair of blades as we speak, so I'll be back on the ice in no time.
That's great. So, you should come to Mexico City sometime to give seminars or something.
Absolutely. I love doing seminars. I love teaching. Um, yeah, and anytime.
Okay, we would have to arrange that. That would be so great. So, someone from the audience wants to know who is your favorite skater?
Uh, Current or former?
Former. No,
Former.
current, I think.
Oh, um, I guess that I this one will straddle the line. I'm just gonna say Carolina Costner,
Oh,
because she is still current, but also
mhm,
former, I guess.
mhm.
Um, I I mean, I've always admired her skating, but I got to tour with her last year, and to see just her attention to detail and just the effort that she puts in, to covering everything, like just from how she holds her hands and her fingers to how she points her toes, and like the way she holds her face and like it's really stunning, and the work that she puts in is very evident when she skates. Like, she because of her hip injury, she couldn't do one jump, and she almost got standing ovations every night, just because of how she skates. And to me, that is so telling, that somebody cannot jump and you still have a like an audience in the palm of your hand, like ready to stand at the end of a performance. Like, I bow down to that.
Yeah, because she hypnotizes everyone.
Yeah.
She's so beautiful. And the guys,
The guys, I oof,
they
um,
are crazy.
they are like, I mean, I've always had a level of respect for all of the men, just because the level of competition is crazy, and the talent goes like all the way down,
Mm.
to the men who don't get shown on TV ever. They're doing quads, and they're taking artistic risks, and their skating is improving, and like I love watching men skating.
They're my
But I have to say, like, um, fellow countryman, Nathan Chen, he keeps setting records and doing things that haven't been done in our sport. And um, I watched he won the novice title when I went to my first Olympics. So I've gotten to see him, like, from a baby all the way through a two-time world champion now, and just the stuff that he does is so impressive.
incredible.
But that I mean, you have Shoma and Yuzuru, and, well, Javi doesn't compete anymore, but before Javi, and I could go on and on, because honestly, the men just continually blow me away. It's Kevin Amos is
Oh,
incredible, and
mhm.
I mean, I could just continue, because
So
I think the men are just incredible.
And last question, what do you think about the Russian girls?
The Russian girls, I have a lot to say.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
I I the technical prowess is incredible. Um, I hate this is not this sorry this is a system thing. I hate that we glorify children, because it sets them up for a poor progression, I think, because there's going to be a moment. It's much easier to do quads and everything when you are, like, very, very small. Just the forces, it's much less force on your body. So um as you get older, you develop muscle and you become stronger, which is great, but that's more mass. And then girls go through puberty, and with that comes different variety of shapes. And so I think we're just setting them up for just mental problems, because they're so used to having success, and then suddenly they can't have that same success, and they're it's not that they're not as good, and it's not even that they haven't improved, because in a lot of cases these girls get better as they go through puberty, and their skating improves, and they become more mature, and they're able to deliver a better performance, because they're more connected to what they're doing, and there's just a stronger sense of self. But we kind of just were like, oh well, they can't do the quadlets anymore, so like they're garbage, and I hate that. I hate that mentality of just disposable girls, that like they have two, 3 seasons and then we move on to the next. Like I don't like that. I don't like that system. And I think
No,
that,
they end their careers at 15, 16 years old, and it's so sad.
yeah, and but we keep glorifying it, and I think that's the sad part, because then when they can't continue, it's such a struggle, and you see a lot of depression and a lot of issues, and I would love to see that we set our athletes up for um, longevity and for like a prosperous career that lasts more than 2 years. And I'd love to see us also promote like women who skate and tell stories and are artists, and that's why Carolina was one of my favorites. Like, but having said that, what these girls do is incredible. The fact that they can do the jumps that they do, amazing. The commitment that they have to their performance is also huge, for such a young age. Like, I don't think they're artists, but they perform and they are committed to their performance, and I do respect that. So that's why I kind of had to like figure out my answer, because there are definitely things that, yeah, there are definitely things that I love about them, and then there are definitely things that I really dislike. And it's not about the individual, though. I just want to stress that it's not about the individual athlete. It's more about the system, and the creation of the athlete that bothers me more than any of the girls themselves, because I have nothing but respect for every single individual that ever puts their feet to ice anytime.
Of course, totally agree. Okay, Jeremy, that was all for today. Thank you so much for everything. I want to thank your mom also. She's such a sweet. She was sending me your pictures and your videos, and she helped so much to do this interview. And thank you for being here. You're a great person, a great skater. I have always admired you. So thank you for being here in Cafecito con Masha, and I hope we can repeat this anytime soon.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure, and I really did enjoy myself. Have a good evening and take care.
You too. Gracias a todos. Muchas gracias por conectarse. Y bueno, ya saben que este video va a estar disponible en un par de horas. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank
Bye
you
bye.
too. Bye.